This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Justin.
Yo.
When I first met you, do you remember how we met?
Yeah, I mean, I remember like sparks flew and emotions ran high.
Yeah. we were at SCORE, right?
That's right. Yeah. I went to one of the SCORE workshops, and you were the instructor.
That's right.
I was the student. I was the apprentice.
And one thing that now you have now you are the master, and the tables have turned. But when we first met, one of the things I really liked about you was the fact that you are always constantly learning. And I remember you talking about a class that you took that gave you a lot of knowledge. And guess what, man?
What's that?
That person that gave you all that knowledge besides me is here.
What?
And
you dug him up? Oh,
you're gonna have knowledge in both ear holes, and it's going to change your life again, man.
Wow.
And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Andros Sturgeon,
and I'm Justin Womack,
and we are the Marketing Geeks.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
K-pop Demon Hunters Haja Boys breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
All right. Tell us that you introduce the guest. Introduce the guest, man.
Yes. Today we have the esteemed privilege of being joined by my social media marketing instructor out of Ventura College. So back in, I think it was 2016, I found out that Ventura College was introducing one of like the few social media marketing programs in the entire state, maybe even in the entire country. I'm sure our guest can tell you more about that in a moment here. But I met him there. I had a pretty solid background in social media marketing at the time, but I wanted to really learn it from an educational standpoint, from the traditional standpoint, beyond just what you're going to find in digital courses and things like that. And this person was able to teach me all of that wonderful stuff. Plus, I learned that life hack that I think is amazing. You get student discounts if you take even one course at your local community college. So there's big student discounts to be had. That's a life hack for all your entrepreneurs out there. So our guest today is Nick Norris, Professor Nick Norris. He's the owner of ID Marketing and Design, which is a boutique agency that provides marketing services to small business in Southern California. He's best friends with our Netflix guest that we had on previously, Kevin Lorino. And in addition, Nick teaches the business classes at Ventura College. He's teaching the social media marketing class, the public relations class, organizational and management, and intro to business. And he earned his MBA from Pepperdine University's Graziadio School. He'll have to pronounce that for me, in business and management. So please welcome to the show, Nick Norris, Professor Nick Norris. How you doing, Nick?
All right.
Thanks, guys. I'm great. It's so nice to be here.
I fixed that. I was calling you Dr. Nick for a while because my old college roommate's brother is Dr. Nick, and I think I was mixing the two of you up. But Professor Nick, and then Dr. Nick is the other one.
Sounds nice. I like it. It has a good ring to it. Maybe I go for my doctorate one day, but certainly not now.
Just for the title. That's what I thought. I might go do an online PhD just for that title.
Just for the title. Just for the title. Agreed.
Well, welcome to the show, man. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you ended up doing what you're doing and your journey through being an entrepreneur to teaching. And
even grad school, because you have an MBA from Pepperdine. That's probably a pretty good story there, too. So
Sure. So I was stuck in a job that I didn't really like. And I don't mean to say anything too negatively about Starbucks, because it was a good job. But after 2 years as a manager at Starbucks from 2005 to 2007, where I was one of the top performing general managers in the Southern California region, they pretty much told me that they do not promote based on merit. They promote based on how long you've been there. And that didn't really work for me. I didn't like that answer. And they pretty much told me I'd have to, stay put, scrubbing dishes, washing toilets, cleaning espresso machines for several more years before I got an opportunity to advance. So I took that as a sign to go back to school and get my MBA from Pepperdine University. It's pronounced the Grazia Dio School. And I know it actually took me, a better half of a year to pronounce it the right way.
I'll just say Pepperdine.
Pepperdine. I like it. Most people say Pepperdine. So Pepperdine MBA, earned it in 2009. So I was doing an internship in between my first and second year there as a director of operations at Maverick Angels, which was an angel investing network out of the Conejo Valley, Westlake Village and Agora Hills and that kind of thing. And I just was around investors and entrepreneurs all the time. And I saw these really smart people starting things and being their own bosses and thought, well, gee, I could do that.
Let me ask you real quick, because the Pepperdine campus is in Malibu. Is that where the grad school was too? Were you studying in Malibu, or where was that campus?
I was. There's lots of options. I was a full-time student, so I was studying at the Malibu campus, which is beautiful. I was driving from Santa Monica up to Malibu every day. Not a bad drive being on PCH.
It's beautiful. I love it.
But they have a number of satellite campuses around Southern California for their fully employed program for folks that are going to school part-time and working full-time, and those are in Conejo Valley, West LA, San Diego, East LA. So I was at the Malibu campus, though.
That's cool. And I think this is my opinion, and I don't have an MBA, so I can't speak to this fully. But I think one of the key benefits of going to grad school is the networking component, because you're networking with, if you're in Malibu, a lot of wealthy individuals, probably from wealthy families, and there's some amazing connections to be made. I think, in my opinion, I think that has more value than the material that you're taught in an MBA program or even in college. Did you make some amazing relationships while you were there? Can you talk about that?
I did, and I think it's really the main reason why my business that I started ended up being a success. The joke at B school is that there's a reason why they call it B school. It's because you're supposed to study hard enough to get B's and spend the rest of your time at happy hours networking, rubbing elbows, and building contacts, which is essentially what I did. So when I started my business in 2008, essentially I went out to my fellow colleagues that had graduated or whatever and were in decision-making roles at the businesses that they were working at. And those were the folks that were calling me to hire me to do my work. So I would say that the success of my business is very directly related to the relationships that I built with colleagues, fellow students at the MBA program.
So happy hour paid off.
Happy hour paid off. More ways than one.
So just going back in time a little bit. So what year did you start your business?
So I was an MBA student from 2007 to 2009. I started my business in 2008, halfway through, and actually Kevin
Great
Loreno
year to start
from
a business.
Yeah, right when the market crashed, and actually I had some fellow colleagues that were graduating that were leaving their MBAs off of their resumes as they were reentering the workforce because they were overqualified for lower paying jobs, and so a lot of them ended up remaining unemployed for 6 to 12 months after we graduated. So yeah, terrible timing. But Kevin Loreno, who you had mentioned before, my good friend who works at Netflix now. He and I started the business together in 2008, and he was my business partner for the first 3 years. So, yeah.
That's cool. It's funny. That's when I first started doing web development and the mobile marketing was a brand new thing. Facebook was like, no one was doing it. If you could do Facebook marketing, it was a big deal. Those were the days. Those were the golden days, but alas. So now you're teaching, and are you, was it one of the, because I ran my business in Southern California until I moved here to the Netherlands, but it got to be a real competitive sort of thing. And what was it about teaching that made you start doing that with like kind of making a bit of a transition?
Actually, it was pure chance, to be honest with you. In 2015, my wife and I moved from Santa Monica to Ventura because we wanted to buy our first house. We had been holding on hope of buying a house in Santa Monica, which is just absurd. So we came to terms with reality and bought in a beach town where we could afford. And so I left Santa Monica, where I'd spent 10 years building a network, and I moved out here, and I didn't really know anyone. I mean, I really didn't know anyone. And so my whole thought was, maybe I'll go see if the local community college needs somebody to teach a marketing class. And that way I could meet some other business people, business instructors. So it was really more of a networking opportunity for me. And I stumbled onto the Ventura College campus right as they were trying to initiate this social media marketing program, but they had a number of professors either not qualified to teach it or walk away from it last minute. And I walked into the dean's office really quite randomly, right as they were looking for someone like me. So I just taught part-time for the first couple of years, and it was never meant to be a full-time job. It was always meant to be more of something to do with my spare time and a way to meet people and, keep business professionals in my life. But it turned out, 3 years later that I fell in love with the practice, and I really enjoy being a teacher. And when a full-time opportunity arose, really earlier just this semester, I am 3 months into a full-time job here at Ventura College. But it was never meant to be anything more than a side gig. So,
wow, that's cool. So what are the things that you are teaching? Like what are the skills that you think are most important right now for people who are learning digital marketing?
So, and I think Justin and I talked about this when I recorded a podcast with him. In 2019 and moving forward, I see a lot of social media marketing being synonymous with content marketing and generating content. And so my assumption when students come into the class is that they know how to use Twitter already and Facebook and Instagram. And if they don't, I can show them a thing or two. But they might not know how, having a podcast channel integrates with a marketing plan and how it, builds credibility and pulls people into the marketing web and that kind of thing. And so I'm teaching quite a bit of content marketing as a strategy in social media marketing. So.
Yeah, I think most people don't think of content marketing in terms of lead generation and revenue growth because they think it's just writing an article. And if you don't have a background in business, you're not going to see the connection. So I think there is an opportunity there to educate people on what it actually means and how it actually works. Because podcasting is, that's a huge one for lead gen, for credibility boost, all of the above. And Andres, I don't know if you know this, but Nick actually started a podcast right out of his classroom. So really? I was a guest speaker at his doing a segment on podcasting about a month or two ago, and we recorded a podcast in the class.
That's awesome.
The Professor Nick podcast. That's right.
Wow. So you're doing a podcast as part of your teaching curriculum.
So I teach in person and I teach online. So my thought is I'll bring in guests like Justin. I've also had Kevin come onto my podcast as well, and a number of other colleagues of mine. And I will record a live podcast in front of my class, and I'll take questions and we'll do answers and we'll talk about whatever that person's specialty is. And then I will publish it on my Anchor channel, which, gets sent out everywhere else. And then for my online classes, I'll use that same interview or podcast conversation as a learning opportunity, as a lesson. So I'm repurposing it from the in-person to the online.
Now, do you own that content, or does that content belong to the school?
That's a good question. I am not a lawyer.
I would talk to a lawyer about that, man. because you could repackage that shit. You know what I'm saying? A little money. So, so what would you say is like if for these young people who they know kind of this digital landscape? What's kind of the way that you approach what they need to learn, and what do you think the most important skills are that they need to learn? So my classes are usually filled with two different types of students. The younger students that are 18, 19, 20, fresh out of high school, first year or 2 or 3 or whatever in college. And a lot of them are already savvy on social media, right? Like I said, they know how to use Instagram stories and that kind of thing. What they don't understand is how to build a strategy and follow a plan. And so for those folks, I show them the importance of, stating objectives, understanding who your target audience is, deliberately selecting your social strategies and vehicles, and then implementing an experience for those people, and then tracking the results. For the younger folks that already know Snapchat, they don't need me to teach them how to use Snapchat. They've been doing since they were, junior high school or whenever kids get cell phones. So it's that thinking strategically and mapping out a plan that separates them. Now, on the flip side, because it's community college, I also get a lot of folks that are further along in their careers. They're not 18, 19, 20. They're 30 or 40 or even 50. And they're looking for new skills. And a lot of these folks, what I have found, are simply hesitant to try new things. And so as part of the class, I force them to start a Facebook business profile. I force them to create a Spotify playlist and pretend that they're a marketer from Toyota or whatever, and that you're creating a playlist. I'm trying to teach both audiences at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I've seen that. Like, there's a lot of people that reach a certain age and they just don't want to learn anything new. And I think that's a huge disadvantage. If you want to be a business owner in this day and age, it's a massive disadvantage because you'll be forced to outsource your social media. But worse than that, which it's okay to outsource, but you need to know kind of how it works to be an effective manager of an outsourcer. And if you don't understand the concepts and what's actually happening, you're going to get taken advantage of over and over again. So I see that as a critical skill. Do you want to speak to that at all?
I do see, especially that generation that comes back, a lot of folks that are coming back to my class that are, say, in their 50s. Some of them have been laid off from a previous job and they were in marketing for a long time. And they're realizing that if they're going to try and re-enter the workforce at age 50 and they've never spent any time being exposed to social media marketing tools, that simply going back and being exposed to these things is of value. So I agree with you, and I'm also an advocate of constant change. The world we live in changes all the time. The tools that were popular 10 years ago are not popular today, and a lot of the tools that we're using now will be irrelevant 10 years from now. So unless we can learn to embrace change as part of our daily operations, I think we'll get left behind. We can be, Blockbuster in the war against Netflix and see how well that goes, right?
Yeah. For sure. We've talked quite a bit about that very thing. So I want to go back a little bit and talk about your curriculum and how you talk about building a strategy. Can you break down kind of the steps that someone needs to take if you're missing that skill? What would you tell people to like that part of it?
The strategic planning skill, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and leading up to, figuring out the target market and all of that. Like, how do you teach it in this day and age?
So one thing that's important for people to understand is to audit yourself at the very beginning, right? So if you're going to try and build a social media marketing plan, you need to look at your own social media marketing channels and platforms and operation and see what it is you're doing well and what it is you're not doing so well, so you can identify what those opportunities are. We then do, talk about target audience. We do a market segmentation activity where I ask students to think about the differences, say, between I'm going to use a couple examples that I'll use in class. Lure Fish House, which is a small, nice restaurant here in Ventura, versus, say, Subway, which is a global fast food restaurant. How would they approach social media marketing differently? And in fact, how is their target audience different from one another? From an age range standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint, from an education and income standpoint, and understand, where they are. Like if I were to tell you guys that we're going to target an audience online and we're marketing for Lure, and I said to you, we're going to use Snapchat to do that, would you think that I'm out of my mind, or is that a good idea?
Well, it depends on who's eating at the restaurant.
Well,
right?
Lure is a fancy restaurant, so I would think you're out of your mind.
Right. But if instead I said that my target audience is, golfers and business owners and people who use LinkedIn, and that I'm going to run a campaign there, would that be more appropriate?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe. And it's and this is one of those things. We actually had a conversation with a guest, I think it was last week or the week before, where we talked about, the idea of running campaigns that start small and scaling up, where, you have to learn your target demographic. One of the big mistakes that people do is they just say, okay, we're going to do this campaign and it's going to have this message, and they don't really test it. They don't do any A/B. They don't figure out what's working. Does a chatbot work better than an email, form? You gotta test these things out. So do you get into the nuts and bolts also about the A/B testing and stuff like that with your students? How do you teach that?
I do. It's tricky, okay, because this is community college, and I can't necessarily ask students to spend money. So a lot of times I'm showing them the basics, and let's also remember that this is an intro to social media marketing class.
Yeah, I was going to say A/B testing is intermediate to advanced. Yeah,
I would agree. Again, I try and convince it. Some students come in oh, I'm a small business owner. I have this brand that I'm trying to launch. I was like, okay, great. So let's learn how to do, for example, a Facebook ad campaign, whether we boost a post or start something. And they're like, ooh, I don't know if I'm willing to risk $5 on that. I'm like, come on, guys. If you're not willing to risk $5 to see if you can, use social media marketing tools, then what are we doing here? But again, I'm a business school instructor at community college. I can't be telling my students, all right, reach into your credit cards, pull out $1,000. Let's run this for 30 days and see if A wins versus B. So I talk about it in theory, but it's difficult to do that in practice. And in addition, I'm working on trying to build a more advanced social media marketing class here at Ventura College. It's in the works. And in that class, I would like to get more into some of the metrics and the performance and the adjusting. I mean, you talked a little bit, Andros, about, starting small, reviewing the data, adjusting, letting the winner ride, and then maybe transitioning to a different direction if it's not going so well. It's hard to do that in an intro class with limited time. So that is something that I would like to address in the advanced class.
So what do you now? I mean, because the landscape changes constantly. I used to teach workshops, and they would have me back every 3 to 6 months. And every single time I came back, I would be like, last time I was here, I said this. This is wrong now.
Tear that up, throw it away.
So what are the, I mean, you talk about Facebook. I personally, it's no secret to what my opinion of Facebook is.
You love them, right?
But what I love, I love them so much.
I wasn't sure, but I thought so.
I love them so much. I want to just smash their little faces right into the ground. So what are you seeing as far as what you're having to teach, say last year versus this year? What are the big changes?
Well, you bring up Facebook, and that's a really good example, because how long ago was it when Facebook was everybody's darling? It wasn't that long ago, right? It wasn't until all the election stuff.
Mid 2016.
Right? I mean, so when I first started into teaching class at the beginning of 2016, it was like, wow, look at Facebook this, Facebook that. All of a sudden, we're viewing it very differently. I'm seeing, as I'm sure you are as well, a lot of the data and results show that Instagram has the highest engagement levels for brands from a social media marketing strategy. And so one of the things that we're talking about in learning is the difference between when to use Instagram stories and when to use Instagram feed, because, they stole stories off of Snapchat. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that we talk about too is influencer marketing and how to tap in, into networks of specialists that are already out there as gatekeepers. And this is one thing, again, that we talk about in the public relations class about how influencers are disrupting the traditional publication gatekeeper model, right? We now have access to huge amounts of people by going to Instagram, YouTube influencers, and not necessarily having to go to, local media outlets. So,
I look at influencer marketing almost like 1980s and 90s, like celebrity endorsements. It's like the same thing, only the definitions have changed of what a celebrity is these days.
Yep.
Yeah. More kids know, the top YouTube stars than they do, or the top gaming celebrities than they do like the top movie stars.
Esports, that's it. We got to get an esports expert on here because that's an interesting thing.
Yeah. So the game has completely changed, and you were talking about that you also teach PR, and I'd love to talk with you a little bit about like what kind of, because I know a little bit about PR, but how do you approach that?
You mentioned Jared. You mentioned Subway earlier. How did they handle that Jared Fogle situation?
Man, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because on the first night of PR class, I asked the students, what is it that you all think PR is? And 9 out of 10 students think that it has everything to do with crisis management, right? They watch these shows like Scandal, and they see these politicians that are in trouble, and these Wells Fargo executives and the VW, emissions scandal. They just assume that PR is managing crisis, and that's a big chunk, don't get me wrong. We talk about that, and spin, of course. So we talk about that for sure. But traditionally, if you were to look at some of the definitions and how they taught PR 20 or 30 years ago, you are talking about building relationships with media, right? You want your story or your brand or your product to be published in the LA Times and the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, on Fox News, on CNN, whatever. You have to be in with the editors, you have to be in with the journalists, and so on and so on. And so we certainly talk about that because it's still a part of public relations. But the reality is now, here's an example I give in class. 20 years ago, if you were a new rap artist or a musician, how did you become famous? How did you make it?
You got signed.
You got signed.
I hustled, man. I hustled, and I just made sure my flow wasn't bogus.
You got to get shot 5 times and survive too.
You have to sign a deal with the record album, right, to make a record, or you have to get your song played on the radio. How do musicians make it now? Is it traditional like that, or do they completely bypass that traditional gatekeeper model and build their own relationship with their fans online? That's how it's done now.
Yeah, not only that, I just read this article about how the music industry has shifted into basically it's TikTok now is the platform, and people are now making songs that are maybe just like 30 seconds to see how they test. And if they test well and people use them and re-TikTok them, then they will do the whole song. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of these new songs coming out are so short, because the attention spans are shorter. But they're also just like testing different sounds on. So it's kind of weird. I'm not sure I dig that, but what happened to like the album?
Man. What happened to the record, man?
Or before the record or the album, one thing, and I want to learn more about this. When I was in college, I missed the opportunity to take the class that's all about the Grateful Dead, right? How did the Grateful Dead make money? They gave their music away for free. They encouraged fans to not only record their live performances, but to bootleg them. And they made their money by playing 350 shows a year.
They were ahead of their time, because that's like the new model, is give your stuff away for free and then just figure out the monetization on the back end of it.
Totally.
No, wait, I want to mention something, because PR right now, there's a big shift happening right now where a huge growing segment of PR is podcast marketing. And our show, which just hit 250,000 downloads yesterday. I will give us something to plug. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Where's that soundtrack there? There you
That's
go.
right. Yeah. We are constantly being contacted by PR companies pitching us guests for this show. And it's and I've looked into it and seeing what they're charging, and people are paying big money to get booked on shows like ours, of course. And it's a pretty incredible, because this whole segment, or this whole industry segment, really didn't exist 2 years ago. I mean, this thing has blown up, and there are $1 million companies probably getting into the 8-figure range right now that are exclusively focusing on podcast booking and podcast marketing. And it's Have you looked into that at all? Because I mean, I know this is brand new, but it's kind of.
Well, he's running a podcast out of his classroom,
that's
man.
True, that's true.
Looked into it.
I think it's really interesting. I'd love to have that kind of a podcast. To be honest with you, there's only so much time in a day, in a person's day, in addition to teaching full time and kind of keeping my side hustle going. I got a wife and 4 kids at home, from 7 to newborn, and it's like, yeah, great idea. I love the idea. When I find an extra 5 hours a day, I'll let you know when I crack that nut. But I'm certainly interested in it. I believe Anchor was recently purchased by Spotify.
Yeah, early 2019.
Yeah. What was do you guys remember the dollar amount? So that was earlier this year. Was the dollar amount 400 million? I can't remember what it is, but somebody out there thinks that podcasting is a huge growth opportunity. And I agree. And to your point too, Justin, I mean, so if you were trying to build a brand, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and you were kicking and striding to get your person featured on a local radio show or on a talk show that's late at night and so on, you had to go through, again, I'm looking at the traditional gatekeeper model. Now you get to go to the source, right? I get to reach out to Justin directly and say, Justin, put me on your podcast, which is how I ended up on this podcast. I was begging, I was dying.
I finally gave in.
But someone like you, if you guys are considered an influencer, and if you have a certain demographic of people that are listening to your show, you can sway a market, or you can create success for a small brand that's up and coming simply because you let them speak directly to your audience, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have 7 listeners, and
they listen a lot, though.
Yeah, and 70% of them like Rick and Morty. So we know that.
Know your audience.
Yeah, my wife is one of the 7 listeners, and she doesn't like Rick and Morty, and
6 out of 7.
We're counseling over it. We have
the marriage might survive
discussions, but I think so. But every time I keep trying, and she just like, anyway. That's a different story for another time. I want to talk a little bit about how you're doing PR also, because like what kind of skills, like what is your curriculum like when you teach this class? Like what are the points? If you could just kind of bullet point what you want your students to walk away with, so maybe you can impart some of that wisdom.
Outside of just the crisis management.
Right. So crisis management is one part of it. Media relations is another part of it. Publicity is another part of it. We talk a lot about celebrities and athletes managing their own personalities online, right? Again, bypassing the traditional model and going direct to the customers. And it also talks about ethics and corporate social responsibility, right? Like in this day and age.
What's that?
What's ethics? That's a good question. Well, we can.
Yeah, what's ethics in a corporation? That's like an oxymoron there.
We can talk about what ethics aren't. I show clips from Justin. You may recall this. I show clips from the Enron movie, "The Smartest Guys in the Room."
That's
kind
a great movie.
It is.
If you haven't seen that,
The Big Short's got some good stuff in there too. I think
that's good too.
Yeah. Smartest Guys in the Room.
Yeah.
The Enron story.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah. And I think there's a show on Netflix. Is it called Dirty Money or something like that? It has multiple episodes about different, corrupt types of businesses. So you can look at what isn't ethics in marketing and in ethics in business, but you can look at some of the things that are positive, right? Like we study Patagonia and what they're doing for the environment and for their community and for their employees and so on. We look at Taylor Guitars. There's a great case study with Taylor Guitars where they started to realize that the ebony wood that was being part of the guitars was was coming to an existential crisis in that it was almost gone. And so they had to kind of pivot and use different kinds of wood, despite the fact that it caused an uproar in the industry because people had been used to using this ebony wood for centuries. And now it's not true, black. It's not true ebony. It's something else. And his argument, the Taylor founder and CEO, his argument is, look, like, I'm not trying to make this change on you just for fun, just to see if you like it. The reality is we're running out of this type of wood. So, it's going to happen this year or next year, 10 years from now, all that wood will be gone. So why don't we do the corporately, socially responsible thing and find a different source? And that's what they've done. So we also study those success cases as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this as well, where you can use a cause as part of your marketing. You're giving back. I mean, Tom's Shoes is the classic example, where the cause is the marketing, and that's something that I fully support. I think that every business should give back on some level socially, and also we live in this day and age where there could be just like a Me Too moment for a business, and then all of a sudden, if their business practice relies on a certain type of industry that is no longer socially acceptable, public opinion can change on a dime.
Look at Uber. Look at Uber. I mean, first it started with Travis Kalanick, the CEO, who got ousted because of a sexual harassment charges. And now they released a study like this last week about like the number of sexual assault cases, and it's astronomically high. Yeah. So, I mean, a company like that too, it's amazing how fast like public opinion can shift.
Yeah, or even I feel that public opinion is shifting with Facebook, and that people are starting to realize what a toxic platform it is. And so, there could be a moment when people were just like, I've had enough of this, the way that this company does business. I'm done with it. And it could happen instantly. In fact, this happened to Cosby, actually. There was a Hannibal, what's his name? Comedian.
Hannibal Lecter.
Buress.
No, Hannibal Buress.
He was Hannibal Buress. He did a routine, and in it he talked about that Cosby was a rapist, and a couple of people were like, "What?" Yeah. He's like, "He is. Look it up. Look it up online."
Family Guy. I think Family Guy did it too on their show or something.
Yeah,
they were ahead of their
it was
time.
just like it was just this moment where it was like all of a sudden people were like, "Hey, wait a minute," and that was it, right? Yeah. Same thing with Weinstein. But this can happen to businesses as well. And so if you're running a business in a certain way that may be not in integrity or relies on a unhealthy practice, your business could disappear in a day. I'm expecting it from Amazon one of these days. People are just going to go, what?
The other really important thing, too, that we learned in that class, and I can't remember the exact percentages and number because I don't have the textbook in front of me. I'm sure it's here in my office somewhere. But the millennial generation in particular is very careful about where they decide to spend their money. And they very deliberately want to buy the products and services from brands and companies that they believe are out there doing good in their communities and well by their employees and all of the stakeholders, not just the shareholders. So if you want that millennial dollar, you're gonna need to engage in some sort of a cause.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like one of the most important points moving into the into the 2020s is that you have to have this kind of up front and center. If somebody finds something that they don't like about your company, that will travel far faster than any good you do.
Yes. Now, additionally, though, this is also about how the market is shifting to where, 10, 20 years ago, corporations would never touch politics. You would never hear a corporation take a corporate stand because why would you? You want to market to everybody. This day and age, especially with the millennial generation, they care more about what you stand for than ever before. And you're seeing companies for the first time, at least I'm sure there've been examples of companies in the past, but not a lot, that are actually taking political stands. Like Nike did this with Colin Kaepernick. I think that was
we talked about that in class.
I think that was a little bit of a risk. It's paid off nicely for them. But you're seeing more and more of it. Like they're actually endorsing presidential candidates at times. I mean, we're seeing a shift where transparency in the way that transparent corporate values are becoming like more necessary than I've ever seen them in the past.
Well, if nothing else, it's becoming more and more difficult for some of these brands to remain neutral.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And it's kind of fun. One of my clients was a martial arts studio in Portland, and I was and the teacher was very clear about like not wanting to make anybody angry at them or make a stand or make a statement about that may be taken one way or another.
Polarizing.
And but her whole motto was about being in integrity and standing up and doing the right thing when people need help. And so I was just like, look, here's my advice to you, because, she's like, how do I market myself? I'm like, my advice to you is you do self-defense classes against Nazis, because they have a lot of like white supremacy there. It's like, you gotta, if you're really true about what you're saying and you're about equalization and, destroying hate, then you got to teach free classes on how to protect yourself at a protest, because someone's got to do something about the fucking Nazis, right? And
can't believe it's 2019 and we still have to say those words, but yes.
Well,
right?
You know your audience though too. I mean, like, what are they coming in for? You should be surveying at times, like, why do you need self-defense? And if that's the answer, then I agree 100%. Yeah, that should be your marketing message, because that's the people that are coming in.
Yeah, but also it's like, when she asked, like, well, what if that alienates people? I was like, the people who are alienated from that message will never walk in there anyway. So don't worry about that. It's also about niching down to that market.
Yeah.
Well, and you're deepening when you alienate and you go niche and you go deep niche, like you make stronger connections with your customers that are probably going to stay longer. So you are going to alienate a certain segment. But the segment that engages with you become bigger fans, and they become more engaged, and they become more loyal and better referrers. So there's benefits. So it's a risk, but there's benefits when you get it right.
Yeah, hence the Nike thing. Let me ask you this, Nick, because you have to stay on top of like your knowledge. You have to like know what's relevant and what's not, like from class to class. Just in a few months. Where do you get like the latest, greatest? Like, who do you turn to for your knowledge so you can pass that?
He's
on?
always texting me. Just kidding. or is it Marketing Geeks? I mean, you listen to Marketing Geeks.
He listens to the Marketing Geeks.
I just regurgitate what I hear you guys say in class, and it's going great. That's tricky. I mean, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole unless you guys do, which is, how do we trust anything that we read anymore? And, everybody that I feel like I grew up loving and respecting has turned out to be a psychopath. And so I don't know if I believe it. But if you're interested in where I keep up to news, I love to use the LinkedIn stories feature for like just general business news, right? So if you're on a laptop or a desktop and you go to linkedin.com, that top right section shows, in my opinion, some of the best trending topics in business. So I will use a lot of that to inform some lessons. But I'm also really interested in technology. So I listen to a podcast called Recode Decode that's all about technology.
Oh, that's a great podcast.
Wonderful podcast.
Good blog too.
Kara Swisher, she's great. I do use Vox Media. I use The Verge. And then, because I'm also a big sports fan, one of my particular
big Patriots fan over there. I remember, right? You like Tom Brady a lot?
Oh,
right?
Yeah, huge. Big Tom Brady fan. Yeah, he never cheated a day in his life. I love this website, and they have a podcast channel. The website's called The Ringer, theringer.com. They have a lot of podcasts on sports, and they have a lot of podcasts on business and on pop culture and these kinds of things. But again, my interest is in the intersection between sports and business, sports and pop culture, and what's happening in the world. Not just the statistics of who won last night's game and so on, but what does this Daryl Morey tweet about Hong Kong have to do with the NBA and China, and what does the future of that look like?
And the South Park episode too.
And that was so funny. The South Park stuff came out right at the same time as all this stuff. So love that Tegrity Farms. So those are some of the places that I turn to for my news.
Yeah. Those are good resources. And it is hard because you never know like who's like where some of this information is coming from, but there are patterns that have emerged. Like, for instance, just what we were talking about a company having to be in integrity, but also people being a little more careful about how they spend their money nowadays.
But we're also in like a guru culture where everybody is claiming guru status. Yeah. So it's sometimes tough to decipher who do I listen to? Like especially if you're looking at influencers online, like which ones are legit and which ones are full of shit. And I assure you that there is a lot of them that are full of shit. Not all, but there are a lot.
But 50% of them are on this podcast. Our hosts.
I don't know, man. I'm looking forward to Fire Festival Part 2. Yeah.
Oh, are they doing it? Oh man, when did he get out of prison? Because when he gets out of prison, I bet he'll have a new company rolling in like 10 days. He'll be like a millionaire again.
Brilliant. He's bootlegging something for prison already.
Just like look at the Wolf of Wall Street right now. That guy's crushing it all of a sudden. Yep.
Yeah.
And he preaches ethics and everything, and it's like I'm not 100% convinced. Maybe. I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but I have my doubts.
Me too.
Yeah, that's going to be like Cosby starting a dating app when he gets out of prison.
Well, look at O.J. Simpson. He's like having a resurgence on Twitter right now. He's got like hundreds of thousands of followers. He just randomly showed up one day, and now he's like trying to be like his old self. Like he's playing like his Naked Gun character, where he's all like friendly and funny. And it's just weird. It's like, dude, we know what happened.
Well, if Ted Bundy had or John Wayne Gacy had a Twitter account, I would follow that shit. I mean, come on.
If Ted Bundy were around in this day and age, yeah, he would have been a celebrity.
It's a train wreck. You can't look away, right?
So what are your predictions for 2020? Tell us like what you think, kind of where marketing is going, and what kind of skills do you think people should be really thinking about now?
Wow. For the record, I'm a terrible predictor of the future. However,
so are we.
So are you?
Yeah. Actually, Norris is much better than me.
If I think about this more from my students, I think that there's going to be more jobs for young professionals at small businesses and startups. I keep waiting for these big corporations that say they're going to hire people and pay really, really good, wages and bring back, benefits and all these things. I don't know how much I trust that. So I see another year of young people self-starting. And that's not to say that big businesses aren't providing tremendous value and that there's good jobs to be had at those. But I think for my younger college students that are 18, 19, I think that they should be looking more at helping to build up small local businesses as a way to gain experience as a stepping stone. Sure. So I see small business maintaining a hold. But to be honest with you, this world that we live in now for the last few years, I can't seem to get my finger on it. I would have never predicted some of the things that have happened politically and business-wise over the last few years to happen. So I'm going to restate that. I think I'm a terrible judge of what I think the future is going to happen, because a lot of times the exact opposite ends up happening. So don't listen to.
So maybe if we just take your prediction and just do the exact opposite, maybe that would be a little more accurate.
Do the exact opposite. Yeah, I still see, from a social media marketing standpoint, I still see content generation being huge. I still see. I see entertainment as merging with social media more so in the next year than it ever has. There's a new brand coming up next year called Quibi, which is quick bites. It's kind of mobile only. It's Hollywood quality, Netflix quality video content that's mobile only, and it's all short. It's all 10 minutes or less. So I think you're going to see an integration and combination of digital media goes social, because we've dabbled in this as a society in the past, but I'm not sure we've nailed it yet. And I think that 2020 might be a year where we attempt to nail it. So.
And in regard to like the idea of content marketing taking off, one of the things we talked about when I did the podcast with you is we talked about push and pull marketing, which I think is something worth discussing briefly here. And I'll let you talk about that in a second, but I also do agree that like this idea of like the merging of information and entertainment, like infotainment has become a new word in the lexicon of American culture. And and people want to learn, but they want to be entertained at the same time. So I think they're going to see less. We're going to be seeing less of the YouTube stars that are just purely like just crazy. I mean, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I do see a rise in this whole model of infotainment, which is what we try to do here on the Marketing Geeks, but fail miserably at. And but yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about like push and pull marketing though, or Andres, you want to say something first? But I just want to
going to say like the whole presidency is entertainment marketing. You know, it's like WWE in politics. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, Vince McMahon's wife was in the cabinet for a while.
I honestly, if I had read this in a science fiction story, like 20 years ago, I would have been like, this is crazy. This would never happen.
She was she was the head of the Small Business Administration, I believe, Linda McMahon, in the beginning of the Trump admin. Wow. I think she resigned after like 6 months.
This timeline is weird.
Stranger than fiction, guys.
Just wanted to bring that up. Just bringing it up. It's true. You can look it up. Go look it up. But yeah, talk about push and pull marketing real quick here, Nick, because I think it's worth mentioning. And we were talking about it on your show, and I just think it's
Well, I think the push and pull marketing is also one of the differences. Again, when I talk about small businesses, is 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have these niche businesses that only served up a really small demographic of population, right? But with our ability to kind of pull people into our web and craft a message and find lucrative ways to make money, honestly, off of serving a small population versus a big population, I think that the pull marketing and the content marketing becomes more and more important with each day. So, as opposed to people, your Nikes and your Apples and your big brands are still going to focus a lot of their money and their attention on, Super Bowl ads and that kind of thing. But, what about the small up and coming brands that nobody's ever heard of that's making money? They're going to be doing, podcasts. They're going to be using influencer marketing. There's going to be generating, music forums, chat bots, Instagram live takeovers, and so on. I think that's kind of, where that's coming. An example that I like to bring up is, so when Game of Thrones came out, I became so obsessed with that show. It was unlike anything else that I had ever seen. My wife read the books, and I had a hard time keeping track of who the characters were. I'm not sure if you guys watch, but there's so many different storylines that after each episode, I needed to kind of break it down and understand more. And so there's a podcast for me. There's a podcast for nerds. I mean, I don't think that they get more than 40 or 50,000, plays after each episode of Game of Thrones. And if you were to try and pitch that business model to a local radio station, say, hey, I have a great idea for a talk show on the radio, you'll get 40,000 people to listen to it each week. They tell you to go blow smoke, right? But the ability for us to kind of break this down into such small niche communities and allow people like me to nerd out over the one specific thing that I'm interested in is kind of the future of these kinds of things. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because in fact I was just reading a thing, I think it was in the New Yorker, about how it was an interview with William Gibson, who it's a great article, but he was talking about how there's these kind of sub communities that happen, except you're kind of all sharing the same type of thing. So even though you're niching down, it's still losing a little bit of individualism, which I thought was kind of interesting. But that said, a lively discussion can be made about, whether or not Khaleesi was in character when she destroyed King's Landing. Oh, spoiler. Sorry, guys.
Sorry. Wah, wah.
Oh, my God. Well, you remember I talked about that movie Under the Silver Lake, which I've never met another person that likes that movie except for me. And they have an entire Reddit community around that movie because there's like all these hidden like codes and symbols in that movie. And I found that fascinating. So I really love that. But they've created an entire Reddit community just around one movie. And people are like traveling the globe to go to like these spots in the movie and try to like figure out clues. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's really, this goes back to what we were saying about, that you have to create a community and get your tribe going, so everything in marketing now is really, it seems it's really about this, like creating tribes. we are hungry to be in a tribe. I mean, that's why people are so polarized now, because we want to be in our tribe. But it's interesting how, to kind of see the organic nature of how these things are happening and how you can market something using these things. Although the thing about it is that marketing is so phony, right? And people want authenticity. So it's trying to find that balance, which is kind of tough. We got to come to the close of the show. But where can we find you, Nick?
Sheesh, lots of places. I guess I could share the new podcast which launched earlier this semester. It's the Professor Nick Podcast. I use Anchor to publish it, so that means it's of course on, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and so on. I'm on LinkedIn, Nick Norris. My website, my company is ID Marketing and Design. You can find me there. I'm on Instagram as an individual at Nick and Ventura. I shouldn't be too hard to find, but check out the podcast.
What do you got coming up on the Ventura College curriculum for the spring 2020?
Actually, this is something I'm really excited about, and if you're not in too much of a rush, I'll plug the social media marketing class for next semester. The school has charged me with creating a zero textbook cost version of the class.
Ooh, I like that.
So,
Neat.
the push at the community college at California level is to make things as cheap or free as possible. So, as part of
like $300 textbooks. I remember being at UC Santa Barbara and getting my $300 chemistry book and being really happy about it.
Oh, yeah.
Real happy.
Here's business law. Enjoy. Sorry, Nicole Falco. I know you love business law.
Selling it back for $25 at the end of the year, too.
Exactly.
Get that.
So what I've done is I've essentially taken the entire social media marketing course and converted it to a zero textbook cost course. Now, the problem with that is there are free textbooks available out there, but anything on the subject of social media marketing or digital marketing was 4 or 5 or 6 years old, which, as you guys know, is ancient. And so I'd read through these options and they looked terrible. So what I did, and this is one of the reasons why the Professor Nick podcast came to be, is I replaced a lot of the lessons with interviews with experts, with people like Justin and Kevin and other colleagues of mine to talk about specific things, whether it be influencer marketing or content marketing or community management or these kinds of things. And so the class has been redesigned and will launch in spring 2020 as a zero textbook cost. And instead of reading chapters in a textbook, you will instead be listening to podcast interviews with me and guests where we talk about certain things. And I don't know if you can see it behind me. I know you guys are publishing a podcast, so this isn't really relevant to your listeners, but all those sticky notes behind me there, that was me building out the courses by subject matter, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And so I would record a podcast, say it's on content marketing with Justin, then we would have a discussion about content marketing, and then I'm having the students literally build their own podcast and publish it and share the link with me, and then also do an email marketing campaign that links back to a blog post that they create on their website using MailChimp. And so it's much more practical and hands-on. And it's all audio based. So
I love that, because like 10 years ago, if a publishing company knew that there was a subject like social media marketing that they could update a book every year, you'd be seeing $300 textbooks and then needing the new edition every single year. So I love what you're doing, and I'm happy to see that there's a shift happening on that crazy textbook market.
So if you're in the Ventura area, then take this class. I mean,
so it's online. You don't even have to be in the Ventura area.
That's right. You can enroll from anywhere. That's right.
Absolutely.
It's cheaper if you're in California, though.
It is cheaper in California.
That's great. So yeah, enroll in the class. We'll try and put a link.
Thanks.
Down below. So before we go, want to find out. We are the Marketing Geeks. What are you geeky about right now? TV show, movie, book, hobby?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. What's the geeky? What are you really geeking out?
He really hates Tom Brady.
Right
I'm just kind of rubbing it in. That's all.
Hating Tom Brady. That's what you're geeking out.
Everybody that doesn't live in Boston hates Tom Brady. So I'm a huge basketball fan, and I'm a big Lakers fan, and so this is the first successful Lakers season in quite a while, so I'm excited about that. But if you're asking about what types of shows, because I'm a geek about shows as well. Yeah. So I'm watching a ton of basketball.
anything. No. Whether it's fantasy football, whether it's basketball.
We had one guest say he was geeky about bees. He was
and chickens. We had chickens and bees have been prior answers.
I'm not. My wife and I tend to watch shows right now. We just finished the last episode of the last season of Man in the High Castle on Amazon Prime, which I thought was fantastic.
I got about halfway through that.
So good. I loved it. And I think we're going to start up the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel here pretty soon. And we're also trying to power through The Irishman, which is the Martin Scorsese film on Netflix.
I need to see it.
The problem is it's 3.5 hours long. And after the 4 kids go to bed every night, my wife and I have like 45 minutes to an hour before we're completely exhausted. So I told her, let's view this as a mini series. Yeah, we're going to watch this. Yeah. We're going to watch this over the course of 4 nights. So
I actually, I don't know. I read the statistic. I don't know why, if Netflix decided to release it, but they said that 37 million people have watched The Irishman so far, but only 18% have watched it to the end.
Oh, watch it again. Okay.
Yeah.
No, watch it to the end.
To the end,
all the way through.
And it got nominated for Best Picture in the Golden Globes. They released that yesterday.
It's fantastic. I'm halfway through it. I can't do it in one sitting.
It's impossible.
It's like
3.5 hours. Give me a break.
Joe Pesci, man, he came out of retirement for this one. That got me excited. I like Joe Pesci.
It's fun. It's been entertaining. It's just too long.
But here's what's funny about that. Okay, yeah, it's too long, but we'll binge watch 4 hours of shit, right? Like if it's like,
I unfortunately haven't watched more than an hour's worth of TV in any one sitting in many years because of these kids. Yeah. So.
Well, I got to see the rest of The Man in the High Castle because. I am watching Watchmen right now, which I've mentioned in previous weeks, and I am blown away. It is so good. It is so good. If you have you ever read the graphic novel?
No, but I'd be open to watching the show for sure. Oh, and The Mandalorian! I can't get enough of Baby Yoda.
Oh yeah!
Spoiler! Come on.
I'm about halfway through. It's okay.
It's okay, but Baby Yoda is worth it. He's fantastic.
Baby Yoda is great for social media marketing, right?
Did you hear the story? The story of Werner Herzog, who plays the gangster?
Oh my god, I love that guy. That guy's voice is amazing.
He's never watched Star Wars in his life or something like that.
Did you know this is a true story? They brought the Baby Yoda on the set, and they said that they were going to replace him with a CGI Yoda. And he looked at Jon Favreau and he said, "You people are cowards. You must use what is real." And so they
love that guy's voice. Just love his voice.
Yeah.
So he is in real life the characters that he plays on movies.
Yeah. Well, he's a director
himself.
Too, and
I know he plays himself.
He directed such classics as Nicolas Cage and Bad Lieutenant, the remake, or whatever that was.
And he just made his last film apparently was a documentary about how great Vladimir Putin was. So
that's a good one about.
Oh, great.
I just watched Rick and Morty episode 4 with a slut dragon, Sandros.
I haven't seen it.
Nice.
Don't give it away.
I won't give too much away. I'll just tell you that. But it was pretty funny.
Yeah. Are you a Rick and Morty fan, Nick?
I'm not. I know people that like it. I want to get into it. I think I just caught it at the wrong time, but I'm a huge Archer fan. So
start with season
immature cartoons. The immature cartoons are wonderful for me. In fact, I find multiple opportunities in my classes to show clips from South Park just to show exactly how brilliant the guys are in analyzing the situation. So,
well, have you gotten your kids into Adventure Time yet?
I don't know what that is.
Oh my God! Do you have Netflix?
Of course.
It's. I think it's on Adventure Time's on Netflix.
I think it's on Hulu.
Adventure Time is like the Yellow Submarine of our generation. It's like it's so good. It's so like it's just funny and it's a kid's show, but there's a lot of heart. And Steven Universe. Those two shows are like, they're so beautiful.
Cool.
Some of the best shows.
Well, I saw Happy Feet, and I know we're going like crazy, weird, random directions, but I saw Happy Feet for the first time over the weekend. I was a big fan. Big fan. Jacob loved it too.
Yeah.
My 1.5-year-old.
That's great. Great thing about kids, you get to catch up on all these, Have your kids caught the Frozen bug yet? Do you have any of those that are like?
Yeah, their grandma just took them to Frozen 2, and we added Disney Plus. So they've been singing Frozen for years now. So yeah, they like all the princess stuff. So
Jacob grew up with Frozen, and he met Elsa and Anna on Saturday. I didn't go, or Sunday. Oh. They were in Thousand Oaks, and Laura, I didn't go. Laura took him. There's photos though.
You should have taken him, man.
Real Elson Anna.
Wow.
The real Elson Anna.
Yeah, I had a bunch of work I had to catch up on. Otherwise, I would have.
Well, Nick, if you ever get to this end of the world, please look me up. We'll do the Amsterdam tour. Super cool.
Would love to.
Yeah.
I was there 16 years ago. Can't wait to get back.
Oh, my God. I love it here. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Norris, thank you so much for being on the show.
Professor Nick. Professor Nick
Thanks, guys.
So cool. So cool. All right. Slow clap.
He deserved it. He deserved it.
Yeah. So what do you got for me, man? Anything else?
No, I think we covered it. We had a full on interview there. I even got some geek time in at the end. I had a great conversation with Nick.
Yeah.
I've taken 2 of his classes. I took the social media marketing class with Nick, and I took the public relations class with Nick. He's a great teacher. He's interactive. Good guy. Has the formal educational pedigree that I don't. I mean, I have my bachelor's of science degree in biopsychology, but I don't have a business master's. I have a business associate's degree from Ventura College. But that's me.
And if you go to the Ventura College website, you can probably sign up for the course online. Coming up, we are going to do our year-end special where we play back our predictions from last year and then make predictions for this year. And we'll see how wrong we are. And
I think we nailed, like 99% accuracy last year, I believe. We'll have to verify that on the show.
Didn't you say you were gonna get a jetpack? And
I think it did mention that. Yeah. Well, it happens.
And
actually, you know what I do remember is I actually gave a shout out to Matt Giovannisci in that episode, and we had him as a guest on the show this year. So that's kind of funny.
That's cool. Did I say I was going to get that operation, the one I told you about? I don't want to talk about it here, but that one operation.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't get it.
Well,
yeah.
I
chickened out.
I get it, but you really need it. Otherwise,
I know
marriage won't last.
Well, you know what? It could, because she's kind of into that. So, ladies and gentlemen,
another fine edition of the Marketing Geeks. I took your line.
You did, but that's okay. I don't. I'm not going to hate. Why should I?
Why should you indeed? So that was a fun interview. Like I said, Professor Nick bringing the value, and we have more great guests coming up, plus our year-end special that all of you have been waiting for, writing to us, constantly waiting for that 2020 prediction episode.
Oh, and guess what we're going to do after the first of the year? I've just decided this.
What's that?
We should tell everybody, all our 7 listeners, that every Tuesday night we record, or Tuesday day, and that they can join. We should have our guests ask. We should have people ask our guests questions, right?
I'm in. That is going to happen. So we're going to be doing that. So if you want to be featured on the show, make sure that you're interacting with us, tagging us on LinkedIn, tagging us on Facebook, where others will never see it. And but it's going to be a big 2020. I can promise you that.
I think so, man. We've got some surprises and a monkey coming your way.
And with that, you spoiled the monkey.
Ladies and gentlemen,
stay classy.